5G takes existing issues that are emerging in privacy law, such as Internet of Things, connected devices, and also collection of personal information in public spaces, such as through autonomous vehicles or connected devices in the public sphere, and accelerates those trends. First off, it gives maybe more devices connectivity by making bandwidth more affordable, and secondly, it gives devices more capability by giving them greater access to bandwidth. And so you could easily see then what was only possible at the end of a wired broadband connection now becomes possible anywhere and in public spaces. And so you could see issues that are primarily an in-home issue of in-home Internet of Things devices become now a public issue. So in addition to accelerating existing privacy issues, 5G may also fuse telecom and privacy regulatory issues as well. Just by its nature, 5G will have more towers closer together. And so by operation of the technology, telecom operators will have more access to more location information and more fine-grained location information. And so if general privacy laws do not keep up with issues that arise, there might be a temptation then from the telecom regulator to address it themselves. However, 5G is just part of a chain. So the telecom operator is just part of the chain. You have the telecom operator, the connected device manufacturers, and cloud service providers in the background. And each should be regulated the same. So rather than have specific regulations that only apply to telecom services provider, the better approach is to have any evolutions that are required happen in the general privacy law so that telecom operators, device manufacturers, and cloud service providers all operate under the same rules. So Canada's public sector privacy laws are consent-based. They require the consent of the individual for the collection, use, and disclosure of their information. So you buy a connected device, and it collects personal information, it uses personal information, the device maker or whoever operates the services in the back end will have to seek consent. As devices get more complicated, because they're connected devices, as they become more capable, as 5G gives them more access to bandwidth, those uses and collections will become more complex. So another challenge that 5G presents for Canada's consent-based privacy laws is the passive collection of data, where a device is in the public space, someone happens to be there, and it collects their personal information. In those cases, obviously, there's no opportunity for that individual to provide their consent. But in both cases, there are regulatory solutions to the issue. In the case of complex uses and collection of personal information, the digital charter proposed by ISED has proposed that consent should be focused on those uses that are less expected or less well understood. So then instead of having a longer consent that sets out fairly routine collection and use of personal information, you'd really focus on those unique issues. For passive collection of information, we could either say expressly that information from a device in certain cases where it's just being stored for personal use, well, make that explicitly clear that that collection was by the individual device owner rather than by the service provider or device maker. There's the more European model, which provides for other grounds of collecting and using personal information other than consent. For example, there's a lawful basis or to execute a contract with the individual. So there are regulatory solutions and examples out there that can address passive collection or complex collection. They will just have to be addressed in a larger reform process for Canada's privacy laws that will take time and that will have many stakeholders, and 5G will be but one issue of many. This is not to say that 5G will invariably give rise to privacy issues. It can also enable privacy-enhancing technology. Connected devices can push computing out to the edge of the network, where processing happens on device and personal information isn't aggregated in the cloud. So 5G isn't an impetus for a strong or any particular regulatory response. We still have to see how device makers, how service providers will use this new capability. Really, we have to wait and see and keep abreast of the issues.